So what's the difference between Torah and mitzvah? So we have the two. Now he's going to talk about the distinction. We talked about the korbanos, we talked about the brachas, we talked about the Isurusa de Latate, Isurusa de Leil, but now he's going to say that there is a difference within the observance of Torah mitzvahs itself. So that Torah is considered chokhmah, comes from chokhmah, that is pnimius. And mitzvahs are considered higher. They come from, their shoyrish is higher, and therefore their levushim, they cannot come down in a regular way as the as Torah, as chokhmah. So that's in a way that remains hidden. And he's going to explain the differences, also how we have it in the level of Torah and level of mitzvahs. Let's look inside. The inyan ha'efresh ben Torah lemitzvahs shomer razal, we find inyan ha'efresh ben Torah lemitzvahs shomer razal, we find our sages tell us that vitra kodesh baruch hu chulu v'lo vitra bitul Torah. We see that in a certain level, learning of Torah is on a higher level than all the mitzvahs, because even though the Yidden did various different Avedis, it says Hashem was mevater, but not for bittul Torah. It was mevater. In other words, bittul Torah is on a higher level. Hashem does not forego that. Hainu. Why is that? Shat Torah ibchinas evorim hapnimim. Torah is like the inner limbs. The main life force of the person is the internal organs. If you make a hole, even a small hole, any amount, like by the animal, the laws of Trefus, a small puncture in an inner organ makes it disqualified. That's the level of Torah. The mitzvahs, they're like the limbs. They are external. So how does this explain the inner inyan? Above we have the light and the vessels, and the Torah is the light, and the mitzvahs are the vessels. Torah, which comes from Chokhmah and Seichel, that means it comes from the Chokhmah law, Hainu Shebichinas Oiris. That's level of Oiris. Mitzvahs, and then you have the mitzvahs, Shehein, Bichinas Asiyah, which are the level of Asiyah, Hainu Shehein, Bichinas Kelim. So they are from the level of Kelim. So Torah is Oiris, and mitzvahs are kelim. B'ayin beitz Chaim Sharmem Aleph Perizayin. The Yichud Ein Sof b'Chokhmah Nikra Iyu v'Chayoy Echad. That the union of the Ein Sof with Chokhmah is called Iyu v'Chayoy. Chayoy v'Noy de Chayoy Pirush Oiris. Chayoy means the Oiris, and v'Garmoy Pirush Kelim means Kelim. So when we say Iyu v'Chayoy, so we see that means the union of the Oiris with the Ein Sof. So, in this case, it seems very clearly that Torah seems as a higher place, that they come from the level of Oiris. So, Oiris are higher than Kelim. Because still the Oiris are higher than the Kelim, the Shoydish of the Kelim, and are higher than the Oiris, the root them are higher. That's what we say, sometimes we say that mitzvah is higher than Torah. Like, for example, we say, if a person learns Torah and he doesn't have in mind to do that which he learns, it's better off, it says, if his sack would have been covering, it wouldn't be born, basically. Better not to be born if you're learning Torah and not have in mind to do the mitzvahs. Ka mitzvahs shehem b'bchinas kelim, and the gabe ha-Torah she b'chinas oiris. Mitzvahs of kelim relative to Torah, which is oiris, they are kemoshul hashilya shemakefes zavlad shenoitzru tchila mehatipa. It's like the sack which surrounds the baby, the fetus. That was actually created first from the seed. The sack comes first, and then comes the fetus. That means the mitzvahs come first. They have a shoyrish, they're higher, but yet they're only makifim. And the vlad, the baby, that's like the Torah, that's the inner. So on a level, the iris is a more revealed level. It's going to explain this further. וזהו גם כן עניין כבריאוסו של עולם, בראשית חשויכו, שהוא שורש again. So it says, like the Gemara says, that just like the world was created by Hi Erev, by Hi Boker, okay, and what is the chashoicha? Shu sherish hakelim. Beresh chashoicha, darkness, that's kelim. V'hodar nehoyre v'chinas oires. V'ayim hashikos means there will be an apostle v'kibla yunuchul. So basically, it's like this. Basically, it comes out like this. Torah is primius, and the mitzvahs are chitzonius. But mitzvahs, the chitzonius, they're chitzonius because they can't come down in a primius. The shorish is in a higher place. They come first. But begilui, the Torah comes. Torah becomes primius. Torah is level of primius. Mitzvah becomes chitzonius. Ach, shu chitzonius elyon, but it's a higher external. It's not external, but it's a higher external. Shelefikach lo yuchal hizgalis rak achitzonis. All what could be revealed is the external. It's high, so you can't get the premise from there. Inyan is going to explain like the idea of shtoik kach ola b'machshava. Be quiet. That is what Hashem had in mind. It's Hashem's thought. That's the level of Galgalta. The Gemara relates, the Rebbe will bring down soon also. The Gemara in Menachos relates that when Moshe Rabbeinu saw that Hashem went up in Lamorim, he saw Hashem was making crowns over there. He says, what is the crowns? So he says he's going to be a great rabbi who's going to darshan, Rabbi Akiva. He's going to darshan every crown that you put. So he said at the end, he said, what's going to happen with Rabbi Akiva at the end? What's his reward? He showed him that they were combing his flesh with milk. So he screamed, he said, this is the Torah, this is the reward. Well, how does it? And the Eibishter says, "Shtoi kach ol b'machshava." Be silent. This is what is ol b'machshava, which means we cannot understand the reason behind why the Eibishter is doing what he's doing, why this happened to Rabbi Akiva. We don't understand. All what we see is the chitzonis. We see, to us, the chitzonis, the external, looks like impossible. It looks like a terrible thing because we don't have the ability to see, to look deeper what's taking place. We're going to go out. But they're talking external, but it's from a very high level. It can't be explained. It's too high to be explained. We don't have no explanation. It's a very high place. So from that perspective, from that part, because of that, Torah is higher than mitzvahs because Torah is pnimius, and that's chitzonius. Torah is oires, mitzvahs is kelim. But the shoyrish of the chitzonius of the kelim is from a very high place, and for that, it's higher than oires. The Parshas Miketz B'inyan Shmoina Nesichei Adam, and that's the same thing. Kemoi, for example, Shagul Goyleth Makefes Al Hamoyach Shu B'chinas Chochma. The skull surrounds the brain. So the brain we know is highest level because it's the inner organ. It's an inner power, but the skull. But that surrounds, that's in a higher level than the brain also, but it's Bechitzonius. So Bechinas Chochma, the Moyach is Bechinas Chochma, and that's around him. Ayin, Beprietz Chaim Sharchov Hei Perik Hei B'tzfush Shlom. So now we already said that mitzvahs are greater because they come from a higher place. But yet, Levisha Toida Bechinas Moicha, which is Bechinas Chochma Shupanimis, that's Chochma Panimis. That's why they say that Torah is higher than mitzvahs, because at the end of the day, that's the pnimis, that's the inner. Torah becomes a food for the soul. It's low enough, it's revealed enough so it can become a food because you can digest it, you can absorb it. It's revelation of the Torah in Gan Eden in an inner way, it's reason and intellect. As opposed to the mitzvahs, nasim levushim. They cannot, the mitzvahs, from them you get garments. They cannot shine, only they're a garment. External. It's like the difference between the food you eat, that's part of your inside, that sustains you, and the clothing that you wear, that's outside. Torah is the inside, that's the revelation in Gan Eden. And the mitzvahs are the levush. Uma'ato nachzer linyonenu gimel. Ma'ato nachzer linyonenu linyonas masois. Now, let's go back to the masois. This was just an explanation, the chilik between Torah and mitzvahs and the differences. But now we'll go back to the masois. Shahoyo behem nesiya v'chaniya. Halo v'amshach. We said before there was the journey, that was the elevation, and then we had the hamshacha, that what brings down. Just like by mitzvahs, there needs to be first hamshacha. That's the Sarusa de Le'ela that comes before the Sarusa de L'Tato, in order li'ikdei li'salah. And we said before, v'zehu inyan birchas ha-mitzvahs. And this is the bracha that you make for the mitzvahs, which is oiver la'asiyosam. You do them before you do the mitzvahs, they go higher. So the journeys also we needed. Masois is already the elevation. How do we prepare? That is Moshe writes, Milmailo, Mibchinas Moitzeim the Neshamas Yisrael lemaseh. You bring down first, before the elevation, before the Nesiya, before you start the Milmata Lemailo, you need Hamshacha Milmailo. You take from the level of Moitzeim of the Neshamas Yisrael, the source, bring it lemaseh for their journeys. Hainu litin koyach ha'oiz. Liyos ha'alah, to give the strength and the power that there should be the halah. What does it mean vayichtav? It says he's written down. You see, like a lot of these points the Rebbe is clarifying. We learned it before, but it wasn't so clear as the Rebbe clarifies it now. So vayichtav Moshe, he wrote it down. But it says Hainu, he said it before. This was Chesomoy Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emes. he wrote it means he sealed it. So he's so much LaKadosh Baruch Hu emes. Means that before, like when you write a contract, when you write it down and you sign it, that establishes that should be that way. Can't change anymore. You made a deal. The deal is Moshe Rabbeinu brings it down, who's the seal of emes. Ayin berabish shmois, perik hey aposik chesed, the emes nivgoshu. Kindness and truth met up. The emes and Moshe. So the Medrash says, who is emes? Emes is Moshe. Ayin beramas pashis v'eschanon. Dafrish samachal v'malav. V'zu. This is Moshe emes chulu v'terosa emes. Moshe and emes go together. So this is the seal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu emes. And also he says, he brings down other places where it uses the language of writing. It really means a seal. Over there it talks about the sofer writing, which is the writing of the sofer takes the place of a signature. You can have a one witness and the sofer. So the actual handwriting is like his testimony that is taking place. That it is the sign by the Sefer. Because of the Gabe Sefer, Vidas, Rabbi Meir Begemore, what does it mean? You should write Bechosmet. The question is, what is the Chasim Karti, the Mesire Karti? According to Rabbi Meir, who says Eidei Chasim Karti, so what does it mean because of? You have to sign it. So we'll understand this idea by introducing Yesh based Bechinas Chochmah. So two levels of Chochmah. Meshikosu be the Rabbi, as brought down in the Rabbi, Kuvchesu is Hainu. Chochmah that Silus is Pashat Benofak Velamed Face Shvilin. We talk about Chochmah of Atzilus and Chochmah Stimo, higher than Atzilus. Chochmah Atzilus expands and branches out to 32 passageways. About this it said Nor Yitzim Eden. That's the level of Chochmah Atzilus. A Chochmah Stimo, but the hidden level of Chochmah, Ubchinas the Lo Yispatach. That's a level has not been developed, it's not opened up. That's the part that's the level of Chochmah which is higher than Seichel and understanding. This is the idea of be silence. This is what has gone up in thought. So she'ein apirush kach olo b'li tam chas v'sholom. Doesn't mean, this was Allah, there's no reason. Doesn't mean that there's no reason. Just like that. There's a reason. It's a reason that can't come revealed. We don't know the reason. Doesn't mean kach Allah b'litam. There's no reason, chas v'sholom. But rather that reasoning is very hidden. It's not given, we can't grasp it. It appears that there is no reason for that will of Hashem. Of course, everything is in Hashem's will. And that's the level of Chochmah Stimo, the hidden level. That is called level of Machshove. Kach Ola b'Machshove. Machshove is the higher level, the level of Chochmah Stimo. The ayin mashekosu mizeh bebiur aposkim b'chukoisai u'b'divra maskil inyan kriyishma. V'lachein gam Moshe shekibala Torah. So that's why even Moshe who received the Torah. That's the story in the Gemara there. Moshe went up to Shammai. V'raisa mechochma nafkis. And the Torah comes from the level of Chochmah, u'b'chinas Chochmah Atzilus. So he received the Torah. And he, in other words, he received from the level of Chokhmah Atzilus. Still, lo yuchal lahasi klal hatam shemachshov elyon. He could not understand at all the reason is machshov elyon. Shebchinas ein sof. That is the level of ein sof. Shekol ha'olam is dabya einon areich elav yisbarach. For all the worlds of Atzilus, Bri, Yitzhak, have no relationship. We don't understand. We can't comprehend. So in the level of Chokhmah, but it's Atzilus, you're still totally not connected to the Chokhmah Stimah, so you don't know the reasoning. And Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't understand also why. And this is the idea when we say Ma'oid Amku Machshav, that your thoughts are very deep. Come on, but we don't understand the Shem's thought. So Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, the 13 attributes of mercy. Sheheim Yud Gimel Tikkun Dikna. Those are the 13 strands of the beard. Heim Nimshochem Emoiches Timo. They come from the hidden level of Moichem. So the idea of the 13 attributes of mercy, they are higher than Chokhmah. They come from Moiches Timo. But they're connected to Moiches Timo, v'lochei gam lamata ba'odom, also below by the person, tzmichas hazokin. When does the beard start to grow? When he gets gadlus hamoichin. Gadlus hamoichin you get by the age of 20. That's when you get the gadlus hamoichin. So that's when the Kemvur b'Shulchan Aruch Rabbi Chaim Siman Gimel Sivches Shashonim Sheroyil Ismail B'Hem Zekonei. When is the years that is fit to fit the beard? I think he's talking about there to be a chazan, you have to have one who has to have a beard. That's after 20 years. What is the Esrim Shona? What happens when you're age 20? So it means that to sell the assets of his father. So let's say the father died and they remained orphans. So they're not entitled to the assets of their father to sell the assets until they're 20 years old. It belongs to them, but the Chacham said you have to wait till the age of 20. The Limka b'nichse aviv, you have to be 20 years old. Why 20 years old? That's when his mind settles. So you see that the age of 20, your mind settles. Behind the fishos nimshachim by beis makifim de abba, because that's you have the two levels of abba, which is chokhmah lamed mem chulu. Not sure what is the Lamed Mem. When it turns 20, there's the two levels of Makif the Abba, both the level of Lamed and the level of Mem. Look, I don't have to look it up. Then the beard is full. To explain that, from the word selem, the tzaddik is the moichim, and the lamed and the mem, those are the two makifim. That's from the word selem, and they're the two makifim that are makif to the level of moichim. Those are moichin the abo you get, moichin the hemo you get when you're bar mitzvah. I guess that's when the higher level of moichin you get. That's moichin the abo. You get it at the age of 20, and then you have the makifim of Lamed and Mem. In the Rabbi Chaim, in the Kabbalah. That's what we say it after Shemina Esrei, after the Amidah. So which means you come to the level of the makifim, the level of the pnimi that comes through the amida, then you come to the yudgim b'tzrach. Mekomokoim hamshachos and meiches timo rag b'chin the sidus levad. How do they come from the meiches timos? Only in a way of sidus. V'hainu lefikagam sheim midas el yonis ma'ed. Even though these are very supreme, very high midas, mekomokoim the yosis habas b'chinas midas. So that it should become a midah from the Ein Sof, which is not a midah at all. It has to come very powerful tzimtzum. That's sidus, that's the here. We want, this is the measure, we say the 13 midas arachamim. How do we get a midah? A midah comes through a cider. In other words, there can't be compassion, there can't be chesed, rachamim, if there's no creation, because who are you going to have rachmanis on? So it means that the level of rachmanis has to do already with creation. And therefore, it comes through a big tzimtzum, because to have those midos, to have a shaykhs to creation, comes at a big tzimtzum. That it says in the beginning, Ki'im ein ba'olam. If there's nobody to get to the Rachmanis, how will we call him Rachman? Okay, let's leave it over here today, because we're going to